Hi, my name is Brent Csutoras with Search Engine Journal. I'm here with Gary Illyes from Google, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about AMP today. That was something that you spoke about here at the conference at Search Engine SEJ Summit, and I wanted to ask you a couple questions in general. One thing is that right now it seems that AMP is really developed for publishers, and that was the starting point of the usage and the rollout. Do you look, are you seeing a time period in the future where it will start to roll out to other platforms, other types of businesses, and include things like shopping carts and checkout functionality?
Definitely. A time period I will not give because I was wrong on some things, some other things, way too many times, and I just don't want to be wrong anymore. But yes, we definitely look at how we can expand AMP to other verticals. If you were following the I/O announcements, there we also announced that for recipes it's now available. So basically it's news and recipes, but you can expect that it is going to come to other verticals as well.
Awesome. Another thing that right now is kind of a curious question on how does AMP actually work with the effects of like Google Now and also with Google Voice? Is it integrated well, or is it coming?
I'm not sure about Google Now. I know that we want to bring it to as many features and services as possible. For example, Google News recently launched AMP support in their results. Voice search is a bit different because their voice search essentially boils down to the query itself. Essentially, the voice query is transcribed into text, and then it will just work like a text.
So whatever the result is just the result.
Exactly.
So right now, everything that we're seeing for AMP is in a carousel, and some of the questions that we're getting in general is at what point, when people are going through search results, they're on a mobile, they get a search result, it sends them to a non-AMP page, unless they're clicking within the AMP carousel.
That's right.
Are you looking at breaking out of the carousel and having any result that has an AMP result being the result you send them to?
That's definitely something that we are thinking about, and very likely that's something that we will experiment with. It just makes sense, right? If you have amplified pages, then it doesn't make much sense to keep them only or to restrict them to a carousel only.
Do you have any reason, like, was it just an implementation?
It was
easier to do it with the carousel at first?
It was a product decision from the initial AMP team. There wasn't anything conspiracy theory-like around it.
So a lot of people are interested in AMP. Obviously, they're looking to stay up with a lot of the products from Google. They want to participate in a lot of the current products, but some people have found issues implementing it. They've run into problems. Some of the verifications there's some tools that actually say, yes, you have the code on there, but it doesn't necessarily say whether it's working properly.
Right.
And so there's some confusion out there. Is there any things that you've seen kind of bubble up to the top, some regular kind of mistakes that people have been making and that they might want to watch out for, or some maybe best practices for really kind of getting...
I think one of the most common issues is that the AMP HTML is actually not valid. I think just a few days ago we launched a validator, and WordPress, one of the AMP partners, publicized it quite heavily on their blog. I think the blog is amphtml.wordpress.com, I think. And you can read more about the validator there. But yeah, as I said, the most common issue is invalid AMP tags or unsupported tags. AMP doesn't support every single, well, almost none, normal HTML tag. So for example, you couldn't use a normal image tag in your AMP pages. You have to use AMP-image. And if you are using unsupported tags, then the validation will fail and we will not use AMP in the carousel.
So with AMP in general, you know, we use the word publisher, and some people have a hard time determining, are they a publisher? Am I a big publisher, or do I fall more under a blog? Is there any situations that a webmaster would not want to install AMP right now, or that they should wait? Or do you feel like anybody who can install it should install it?
Should is a strong word. I think AMP AMP has some benefits that are very hard to beat with traditional HTML and other coding. Essentially, if you switch to AMP, then it's guaranteed that your pages will load very, very, very fast. And you will benefit from AMP CDNs.
And you were mentioning the AMP CDNs as being like, you know, basically regional, you know, caches essentially
Yes.
that allow you know, quick loading without having to go all the way across the world to wherever a specific server
exactly.
is.
And that's a very good thing to have, I guess. Essentially, if you are in Australia, then, as you said, like you don't have to cross the two oceans and the continent to get content from Atlanta, for example.
Now, does that work for the caching? Like, is there any opportunity for that to work if, say, like a server was down? Would the cache still show it? Like, if I'm searching for something in Australia?
I'm not sure about that. I would say that probably it will for a limited time, until the cache expires, and then like you would get nothing after that.
So one last question I wanted to ask you. You know, you've been involved in a lot of projects with Google. You're involved in a lot of insight into what's happening. In your opinion, right now, within Google, what excites you the most personally? Like, what product, what area, what thing do you think is the most exciting for you within?
Although I don't know what to do with it yet, but I think one of the most exciting things right now are revolving around the Assistant project. Basically figuring out how can we create a piece of software on a specific hardware, perhaps, that can help me with my daily life and make my life easier. There are lots of issues with it, both technical and webmaster issues. Yeah, it's fascinating, and it's very cool to think about how can we help publishers. And when I say publishers, I mean all webmasters. Take a piece of that cake.
Awesome. Anybody wants to continue tracking news about AMP or any other information about you? Do you have a good place where people can follow you?
Twitter. I'm 24/7 on Twitter, and I usually post stupid puns. No, useful information, really. We have the Webmaster blog. If you want to follow AMP, the AMP project, then g.co/AMP is where you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brent.
Cheers. Share with us any of the lessons that you kind of learned from stepping away from the newsroom and really getting a chance to experience social media kind of in the wild, and then coming back into it. What do you feel like really applies to your role at Daily.Today?
What's really kind of interesting is that in the interim, sort of everybody else discovered suddenly that there are publishers now. And so even in being outside the
audience doesn't want, we won't publish it. And we do negotiate that with various merchants.
Oh, so you can actually see that there's a deal and you'll go try to negotiate to get a price, or?
Sometimes that's a deal that is being offered only to our readers, so we have an exclusive on it. Other times we're going out to thousands of retailers and looking for the lowest deal ourselves.
Is that something that an average person can